So did y'all see what Mexico City did for the 4th of July? They protested against gentrification. There were marches held in several points of Mexico City. We know that gentrification is a huge issue in several cities across Mexico. There were businesses that were even vandalized. I want to say that the majority of the protests were peaceful, but there were some that were not. Now, we know that gentrification is a big issue, and there's people from all over the world that move into Mexico City, but it is symbolic that Mexico City chose to protest on American Independence Day. This sign says, "Foreigners love Mexico, but hate Mexicans." That was a very direct statement. I think with everything going on in the U.S., that was definitely targeted towards Americans, not any other foreigner from a certain nationality.
Hello everyone, welcome once again to our channel. I hope wherever you're watching, you're having a great time. Now, we have seen Americans in many ways try to protest against illegal aliens and those who are working in the United States. Many during Trump campaign said that these illegal aliens have come to our country and taken up our jobs. Now, this is now happening in Mexico. While we knew that Americans were protesting against Mexicans coming to their country, right now Mexicans are protesting. And what they are saying is that there are those Americans who work remotely in our part. And what they do is that they are making things quite expensive for us because they are outpacing us, especially when it comes to some services that we should be getting. For example, you can find that hotels in Mexico are able to admit Americans who are paying high dollar value as opposed to local Mexicans. And this is now starting to create a rift between Mexicans and Americans. While they are neighboring countries, it seems there are a lot of economic issues that is still between them. And let us listen to some of the reactions that are coming out of that part of the world, then we shall talk in the end.
Let's talk about the protests happening in Mexico City. Locals are telling foreigners to pay taxes, learn Spanish, and respect the culture. And now people are saying, but if Americans said that to immigrants, everyone would be upset. But let's talk about why that comparison doesn't hold up. It is not the same thing at all. When immigrants like me come to the United States, we don't come to the United States just to buy off property and live off passive income. We come to work. We do the jobs nobody wants. We pay taxes whether we have papers or not. We build things. We respect the country. We contribute. Now compare that to what's happening in Mexico. The tourists or digital nomads, people that work remotely to escape high rents in the States, they are not there to integrate into the community. They live in Mexico, but they still work for U.S. companies getting paid U.S. dollars. They're not paying Mexican taxes. They're not part of the Mexican labor force. Overall, they're just not helping the Mexican economy. If anything, they are draining it. And the worst part is they tell us when we come over here to the United States to learn the language. They go over there, they don't learn the language. They treat the place like a fucking trend. And what ends up happening? They buy up all this property, increasing the value of property for people that have been there, living there, making it unaffordable for the locals in the country. And that's why people are protesting. They don't fucking hate foreigners. They hate the fact of what foreigners are doing, gentrifying the whole place. Everything, the rent's gone up, $2,000 and up. Everything being listed on Airbnb now. So don't say it's the same, because when we come over here, we're not fucking welcomed while contributing so much to the country, and we still get blamed for everything. While tourists that go to all these other countries like Mexico and my country of El Salvador, they get all the perks, while the locals pay the price.
Karma is a bitch, ain't it? Y'all hear what's going on in Mexico right now? It don't get no better. So while liberals in America are saying, Viva la Mexico, and waving the Mexican flags, protesting with illegal immigrants to keep them here, you know what's going on in Mexico right now? The Mexicans are protesting, holding up their signs saying, hey, gringo, get the fuck out of here, SA. Get the fuck out of Mexico, puto. The Mexicans are kicking white liberals out of Mexico, while the ones here are protesting to keep Mexicans here. What the fuck? So the reason for this is liberal Americans fuck America up, fuck their beautiful California up and their fucked up blue cities, and then they dip out, sell their shit, move to Mexico, right, to live cheaper. Yet they get all the high paying jobs in Mexico, according to the Mexicans. So they move in, everything goes up because of the high traffic of foreign people, and then they go there with their fucking United States American entitlement for the liberals. They go to Rome and do what liberal Americans do. Because they don't know, when you're in Rome, you do as the fucking Romans do. So they go to Mexico with their entitlement, right? And then they work from home, work on their computer, and then they live this lavish lifestyle. Because when you go there with your United States dollar, you can buy a fucking mansion for pennies on the dollar. So now because of that, everything, all the prices are going up, cost of living is going up. They're over there fucking up Mexico, and the Mexicans have had enough. So they're over here trying to say, Viva la Mexico, Viva la Mexico. And then Mexicans are over there saying, get the fuck out of here, puto. Go back to America, go fight in America. We don't want you here. Hell yeah. The only thing they need to realize is, here, they'll just talk. But in Mexico, the Mexicans will actually make them disappear. So they're gonna fuck around and find out. So let's get ready for them fucking liberals to march back here in droves, because the Mexicans are kicking their asses out of Mexico. And that's just news for you.
Mexico is not playing with the nomads. When I tell you they are protesting and they are going in those communities and they are tearing those bitches up, okay? The Mexicans are not playing when it comes to their land. And as I'm going to say this, babe, as they should. Because you know what? These people went into their communities trying to gentrify the community and tell them that they can't play mariachi on the beach and they can't do this, they can't do that. Like, baby, who are you? Okay? That is their land, okay? So as they should, okay? Because that's exactly what y'all guys do. Y'all guys want to go to the lesser places and y'all guys want to build it up, and then y'all guys want to make the communities impossible to live in because they go up and the cost of living goes up, and those people can't afford to be living the lives that y'all guys are trying to impose onto them. Also, who are you to think that you can go into somebody's land and take it and make it yours? Because y'all guys been doing that for years. Okay, y'all guys have this whole world to figure out, but y'all guys want to go there and mess with people's communities, which I think is messed up, okay? So as they should, I am on their side because that is their land. Y'all need to get the fuck up and get the fuck out, okay? Period poo. Clock that T.
I want to address the anti-gentrification protests in Mexico that happened on July 4th. And I get it. People are frustrated. Rents are rising. Locals are being pushed out of neighborhoods. Trump is a complete ass towards my immigrants. And foreign faces are showing up in places that used to feel like home. But I think it would be helpful to look at who we're angry at and why. First, let's put it in perspective. There are fewer than 800,000 Americans living in Mexico. That's less than 0.5% of the population, 0.5. Meanwhile, there's over 12 million Mexicans in the U.S. In the U.S., the foreign-born population is over 13%. Immigration is not one-sided. And from my personal experience, I've spent years in northern Mexico, in Caborca and Hermosillo. You know how many white Americans I've seen? Maybe a handful in 20 years. These aren't expat hubs. These are towns entirely made up of Mexicans working, raising families, living everyday life. So when I see the protests that seem to be focused specifically on white Americans, I understand the symbolism, but I think some of that energy is misdirected. The issue isn't foreigners. It's unregulated tourism, real estate speculation, weak tax enforcement, and some definitely disrespect for customs and culture and language. What if we address the root of the problem instead of blaming individuals? enforce stricter Airbnb regulations or even eliminate them from some areas to protect local housing markets, implement a tourism tax. That happens. Higher property taxes for non-residents. Make sure long-term foreign residents pay taxes in Mexico. Enforce that. Not just living here on foreign income and benefiting from low costs. These are government policy issues, not immigrant issues. I'm from the U.S. I believe one of the greatest things about America is diversity. Immigrants have made the U.S. stronger, more creative, more resilient, helped the economy. And I believe Mexico can embrace immigration and in its own way, not blindly, but thoughtfully. People from other countries can bring new perspectives, open businesses, create jobs, and contribute if laws are clear, fair, and enforced. Blaming individuals, especially when they're here legally, respectfully, trying to contribute, doesn't solve the housing crisis or protect the local culture. What will solve the problem?
Do you know how obnoxious you have to be to piss off the most hospitable people on the face of planet Earth? Right? A los ciudadanos del país de México, right? To the point where they're like, afuera, gringa afuera. Like, we're done, right? We're done. Like, it's so crazy, right? Because I made some content about this a couple of months ago. I told y'all, right? The Mexicans were getting done, right? When folks were going to the restaurant, y pide la carta en inglés, and like, come on, like, learn Spanish, bro. It's not that hard to learn basic Spanish. And then driving up the rents, acting like you in the 51st state when you're in a completely different country. They had enough, man. They had enough, and I'm there for it. I hope all of these gringos, all of these fools get about 15,000 quiero llorars and get the hell out of there, man. Because again, they have really, really messed up the situation, or tried to mess up the situation, in one of the best countries in the world, which is Mexico. Much love, baby. Estoy aquí en la lucha contigo.
This protest happened on 4th of July in Mexico City, Mexico. Mexican locals protesting gentrification, or in my words, protesting colonization. And I love that they did this on 4th of July. And in the video, you can hear protesters saying, fuera gringo, which means get out. And gringo means someone who is from the United States. They are also chanting, mi casa no es su casa, which means my house is not your house. Gringos are moving to Mexico while holding a remote United States job. And they're enjoying the cheaper cost of living because obviously they're making money in dollars and spending it in pesos. These colonizers are spiking up the rent where locals are not able to afford housing. In the last 5 years, rent has spiked up by 47%. There was a protester that said that if they are going to live, the gringos, if they are going to live in this country, they need to contribute to this country. And that is so true, because here in the United States, immigrants pay taxes. They contribute to this country. They pay over $100 billion in taxes. The gringos in Mexico are not paying taxes. They make American dollars, US dollars, so they pay taxes to the US, not Mexico. Immigration policies in other countries for US citizens are lenient to non-existent. While here in the United States, as we speak, immigrants are being kidnapped off of the streets and into these concentration camps for profit. Gentrification is just a fancy word. Let's call it what it is. It's colonization. You want closed borders. You laugh and joke and celebrate, saying that you're going to feed the entire Hispanic Latino population here in the United States to alligators, but still come to our countries to colonize our countries. What is it that you say to my people in my community and all immigrants? Why don't you stay in your own country? Why don't you fight for your own country? You're not poor and can't afford rent, food in the USA because of immigrants. The United States isn't unaffordable because of immigrants, because that's why you moved to our countries, right? Because you can't afford to live in the United States. Immigrants are not the ones doing this to you. It's the greedy, rich people here in the United States. It's the greedy corporations. It's the greedy politicians doing this to you. It's the rich ruining this country. The rich here in the United States laugh at you. They think you're dumb. And that's why they lie in your face and laugh behind your back. They lie to you and tell you that it's the immigrant. That because of immigrants, you can't afford life in the United States. They lie to you and say it's because of the immigrant you can't afford food and housing. They laugh at you and lie to you, all the while lining their pockets. The Mexican local population is being illegally displaced so gringos can come and colonize Mexico. People who have lived in their neighborhoods and homes for 40, 50, 60 years being displaced so a gringo can come and colonize. Oh, and let's talk about the audacity U.S. citizens have when they come over to our countries. You want closed borders, you're racist pieces of shit. You come to our country wearing your maggot hat. You don't want to hear our music. You want our restaurants to make the food more bland for you. Because God forbid your food have seasoning. Oh, and get this one. U.S. tourists went to Puerto Rico and started poisoning the Puerto Rican frog, el coqui, because they did not like the noise they made. I am proud of Mexican citizens protesting this colonization. This needs to stop, and other countries need to start protesting colonization as well. If you do not like immigrants and you're a racist piece of shit and want closed borders, then you should not have easy access to our beautiful countries.
Did y'all know they over in Mexico tearing white people's asses up right now? If you don't believe me, you can go look it up. But the Mexicans that are in Mexico are literally coming after people who are claiming to be nomads. You know, all those boomers who have now retired and are looking for a cheaper place to live with their retirement. They decided to go to Mexico and try to gentrify Mexico. And they said, no, sir, no, ma'am. The Mexican people are going through their cities where they've built all these places of shops and restaurants, and they are breaking everything. They are blaming this boomer generation and these digital nomads for the reasons why the price of living is going up. They say that over the last 5 years, just rent alone has gone up 43% because of them. They said that because of them, they are now having to choose between groceries, rent, and electricity. And they didn't waste no time telling them, get the fuck out. They even said they was coming on their beaches telling them that their mariachi bands can't play their music. The nerve. That's a cultural thing that's been going on there forever. Why would you think you get to go to someone else's country and tell them what to do? There was even one of the protesters who was quoted stating, this is how colonialism works, and we're gonna put a stop to it before it ever even happens, honey. And they don't look like they're joking around, busting windows straight out, honey.
Mexican citizens protested yesterday against gentrification in Mexico, against Americans, Canadians, anybody who is remote working in Mexico. Thousands protest. There's even video if you search Mexican gentrification protests. They attacked American-looking people in restaurants, broke windows, like violence. They wanted to get at them. And it's because they're making Mexico expensive. And they're getting blamed for making Mexico expensive because they go around saying Mexico's cheap, come here. But by doing so, rents and everything else have gone up in Mexico, making it really hard for the citizens. I keep trying to explain that the economy there is on shaky ground. There is no work. The youth don't have work. And like you see here, Eventually they hit a boiling point and they start to protest about it. And that's what's happening in Mexico right now. Super interesting to keep an eye on this. If I see more, I'll let you know.
Last year, I made a video about the gentrification in Mexico City, talking about how white folks were complaining about the spiciness of the food and how they've made it so uncomfortable for folks in Mexico that it has shape-shifted the culture in a negative way. They did the same thing in Sinaloa, complaining about the banda music, which is a cultural staple there. And while their country is actively and has been actively displacing Mexican people, kicking Mexican people out of the country, they thought they were going to sleep peacefully because they were a digital nomad or had they cushy American job with their US dollar. Give them hell, my Mexican brethren. It's always laughable to me that white Americans never think that they're gentrifying a place, but that their presence makes the place better versus worse. And in the conversation around the white Americans and the bulk of Americans that are indeed gentrifying Mexico City, people protesting you being there is not at all the same as immigrant folks, migrant folks being in the United States of America. Because let's start with the very real fact that when people immigrate into the United States, they do more with trying to assimilate to be American versus trying to make you assimilate into their culture. When the fun part about it is there is no such thing as quote unquote American culture, because the identity of the United States of America in and of itself is stolen. Everything from its food to its music to its people are bagged, borrowed, and stolen. I don't have any sympathy for people that have so much privilege that they can choose a place in which they're going to immigrate to live, be either hosted by their job or self-funded by their work, and also refuse to learn the language, eat the food, and complain about the overall cultural identity of the place when you can just, as I always say, stay your ass home.
It's gonna piss some people off, but I don't understand the outrage against gentrification. I'm in Mexico City right now and I'm seeing protests and people destroying businesses and windows. Are you that mad that the city's improving? Step back a little bit. Never understood flags to begin with, or borders, or why people cheer for their favorite soccer team when they were born just 100 kilometers or miles away from it. They would be cheering for another team altogether. It's missing a lot of objectivity. I'm in Mexico right now, and no, I'm not from here. So maybe that makes me part of the problem, but I think that it also makes me part of the solution. I pay more for coffee, pay for rent, I buy stuff at local businesses, and these businesses, they themselves pay rent. And part of that rent goes to taxes, and part of those taxes goes to continue to improve the roads and the infrastructure that everyone is benefiting from. So I really don't get why destroying these places helps anyone. If I'm a walking paradox, so are you, because people complain about change, but they forget that they themselves are the result of change. They defend the present like they didn't displace the past. Let's take this city, for example. Before it was Mexican, it was Spanish. Before it was Spanish, it was Aztec. Before it was Aztec, it was land, animals, trees, rivers, jungle. Before that, it was ocean. Before that, it was silence. My point is, I don't know if gentrification is bad. I don't believe it is. Maybe it's just the next version of what was always coming.
You need to temper your expectations, okay? Don't roll into Mexico with your Canadian thought process or your American thought process. It ain't Kansas anymore, okay? This is Mexico. It's its own country. It has its own culture. It has its own language. And if you don't come here and actually embrace it, you're pretty well pooched, okay? It's going to chew you up and it's going to spit you out. I've seen it happen before. You have to temper your expectations. You have to understand how things actually work here, how they don't work here, because a lot of things do not work the same way it works for you back home. And come here with a positive attitude, embracing everything that is Mexico, because if you're not, then why the heck are you even considering moving here? That would make no sense unless you really love the culture and want to become a part of Mexico.
Hoo-wee, you white boomers in Mexico, what's going on, man? You a little scared? Are you scared? I'd be scared if I was you. You better get your ass out of Mexico. Just saying. Keep on thinking that the Mexican people are going to put up with your shit. You're in their territory. I would suggest you come back home to the good old United States of America. It's so good. Why'd you run away? Where did you go? Come back. They're going to make you come back.
Mexico is not playing with the nomads. When I tell you they are protesting and they are going in those communities and they are tearing those bitches up, okay? The Mexicans are not playing when it comes to their land. And as I'm going to say this, babe, as they should. Because you know what? These people went into their communities trying to gentrify the community and tell them that they can't play mariachi on the beach and they can't do this, they can't do that. Like, baby, who are you? Okay? That is their land, okay? So as they should, okay? Because that's exactly what y'all guys do. Y'all guys want to go to the lesser places and y'all guys want to build it up, and then y'all guys want to make the communities impossible to live in because they go up and the cost of living goes up, and those people can't afford to be living the lives that y'all guys are trying to impose onto them. Also, who are you to think that you can go into somebody's land and take it and make it yours? Because y'all guys been doing that for years. Okay, y'all guys have this whole world to figure out, but y'all guys want to go there and mess with people's communities, which I think is messed up. Okay, so as they should, I am on their side because that is their land. Y'all need to get the fuck up and get the fuck out. Okay, period. Poo. Clock that T.
Gentrification is colonization. Let's talk about it. Recently, there's been protests in Mexico City because of the amount of people from America that have brought over their money and started their own businesses, gentrifying, making everything more expensive in parts of Mexico. Now, of course, there's some people in the comments, like Americans, being like, oh yeah, I guess they also hate when immigrants come here and take their homes and jobs. That's not what gentrification is, Ted. Gentrification is when you bring money from your country into a different country, you raise up the prices of everything because you're buying top-notch houses, you're building businesses, you're trying to basically push people that have lived in that area out of there because you're making everything too fucking expensive. And at the same time, you're going around complaining about the locals and the culture, people being up too late, making noise near your new condo that you bought in your retirement in Mexico. And I think we're going to see more of this. We're going to see more people in Mexico fighting back, pushing back against people in America, whether they're well-intended or not, coming in and doing so. Because if you're going to go into another country, as you guys like to say, you got to assimilate, you got to learn the culture. But for some reason, Americans think that they're the exception. They could go to these places, make their own areas, and that's fine and that's normal. But if hardworking immigrants want to come to America, build jobs, do their own thing, just be a part of their own communities, literally away from you, then they're an issue. But Janice and her husband can come and move somewhere to Mexico because it's so cheap for retirement, and then complain that the restaurant near them that's been there for 3 generations is too loud at night and try to get them shut down. That's gentrification. Now, if Janice and her husband moved there and they understood that things have been around and people have been around there longer than they have, that's not a problem. But Janice and her husband going and try to police everywhere, build these businesses, not include the actual local community and people, that's not good.
So Mexico is over there in Mexico City fucking shit up. Yeah. Okay? They said, we do not want this gentrification coming here. We are tired of the Americans working and coming to live here. Nomad workers, okay? They're saying it is messing up their economy. It is raising their rent prices because we are coming over there with our money, our American dollar, our American jobs, able to, pay for whatever. So they're like, oh, you can afford it, and then we're going to raise the price. The Mexicans is not fucking with it. They not with the shits, and they don't want no parts. So they are over there smashing windows. It's not funny. Yes, it is. They are over there smashing windows, and they are like, get out, get out. So just as much as we are trying to get them out of this country, they want them white people out of their country. And I'm not going to front. Where they are, that we need to be getting them out expeditiously, because when they come, everything changes. Everything changes. So yeah, they over there doing their big one. They over there doing their big one, and they're not playing. It's time for y'all to bring y'all asses back home. And that doesn't mean America.
All right, guys, we made it through Saturday. Saturday morning, that is. Well, this is not good news either. Karma has struck back to Americans now. Those of you that are in Mexico, now it's your turn to see what it feels like on the opposite side. Gentrification, I believe that's how you pronounce it, okay? meaning Americans, go remote, have remote jobs, live in Mexico, right? For them living in Mexico all this time, now housing went up. Now jobs are lost. Okay? So now they want Claudia Sheinbaum to get the Americans out, to do what they're doing over here. Deportation. That's right. Deportation. I'm going to show you a couple videos and you're going to see what it's like on the other side of the coin. I don't mean to show this to put anybody down, but just to show you, we as American people, all of us, have to set, a good example of who we're voting for, who we're putting in office. These are the ratifications of what's happening, right? And it's not good. All right, do me a favor, like, follow, share, copy, paste, whatever you need to do. Post it to your story. All right, guys, be safe. Hug your loved ones. Another thing, things are happening in Texas. You saw those children in the camp, all those kids dying in there. That was so sad as well. Prayers to them and their families. That is so sad. All right, let's get to the video. Here we go.
Ciudad Mexico, guys, aka the New Brooklyn. You know why they're calling it the New Brooklyn? Gentrification. A lot of Americans are moving over there and calling themselves expats. They're getting remote jobs and then they're moving to Mexico City. As a result, housing prices in certain neighborhoods have shot up and local businesses are actually shifting to meet new, often foreign, demands. Remember what we talked about, the salsa not being as spicy anymore in Mexico City. Why? Because, most Americans,
they had to tone it down.
Los Mexicanos, what do they feel about this?
Recent protests in Mexico City, particularly in July 4th, 2025, have targeted Americans due to the rapid gentrification driven by influx of affluent U.S. remote workers, often referred to as digital nomads, in neighborhoods like Roma and Conseda. Since 2020, these Americans earning in dollars and taking advantage of Mexico's lower cost of living and less visa policies, allowing stay up to 180 days without a visa, have significantly driven up rents, making houses unaffordable for locals earning an average of $370 per month. Protesters view this as a form of modern colonialism, replacing long-term residents and transforming cultural neighborhoods into expat enclaves where English is increasingly dominant. Mexicans are particularly upset because many of these American remote workers do not contribute to the local economy in equitable ways, often earning U.S. salaries without paying local taxes, which exacerbates economic disparities. Protesters argue that these foreigners with the greater purchasing power inflate housing and food prices, forcing locals out of their communities, with some documented cases of families displaced after decades of residency. The protests, which turned violent with vandalism of businesses like Starbucks and harassment of tourism, also demand stricter regulations on short-term rentals and taxations of foreign workers to mitigate these impacts. This sentiment is compounded by a broader anti-American feelings, fueled by U.S. policies like Trump mass deportations efforts and tariff threats, which protesters see as hypocritical given the unrestricted influx of Americans into Mexico. The protests also reflect a deeper cultural and nationalistic backlash, as many Mexicans feel that American remote workers disregard local culture and laws, further straining bilateral tensions. Demonstrators have expressed anger over foreigners who trash natural areas and fail to integrate, with social media posts highlighting incidents of disrespect, such as American treating Mexico City as a playground for cheap living. The timing of the protest on U.S. Independence Day and actions like banning effigies of President Trump underscore rejection of perceived American imperialism. While Mexican officials, including President Claudia Sheinbaum, condemned the protest, xenophobic tone, and vandalism, they acknowledge the legitimate concerns about gentrification, calling for dialogue and policies to address housing affordability and regulate foreign presence. So you find that this thing that Trump started in the United States by starting to deport everybody and then also slapping Mexico with certain tariffs, Mexicans are also feeling it because they are finding that Americans can come to Mexico freely, have 180 days stay without any visa, but still when they go to United States, they are being treated like dogs. So that is why they are saying we can't have our country host these people, yet they are chasing us like dogs from their country. And I think they also look at how Trump has been talking to different leaders and how he holds Mexico with contempt. And that tells you that Trump policies without proper thought can end up creating animosity between neighbors who have lived peacefully for many years. Share your thoughts down in the comment section. And if you're watching us for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share. Thank you, and let's meet on the next one.